Hey everybody, it's Cider Week Hudson Valley. It's our last Saturday of a really phenomenal week. I have been looking forward to this particular event all week long. This is our Sip and Symmetry event where we are pairing Merchant's Daughter cider with Donna Mikkelsen's Symmetry drawing. I'm Scott Ramsey from the New York Cider Association. I have with me Christine Sisler from Merchant's Daughter, and Donna Mikkelsen, Hudson Valley artist, amazing artist extraordinaire. This is so awesome, you guys. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for joining. So you should know if you're joining us today, by the way, it's a perfect day to be doing this because it's really raining and kind of gross here in Hudson Valley. But if you're joining us, get yourself ready with some paper and a way to draw some sort of favorite drawing utensil. And we're going to talk through these delicious ciders and do some drawing. And you have the capability to comment or ask questions or chat with us. Just type it right into the comment feed and we'll see that and we can respond and comment as we see your Q&A and your comments come in. So without further ado, Christine, I'm going to introduce you first and have you just talk a little bit about Merchant's Daughter cider, which I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. So first, I'm Christine Sisler, and I'm one of the founders and partners of Merchant's Daughter Hard Cider. And, you know, we came about a few years ago. I actually had worked at Pepsi, so I was in the corporate world, and I had worked with a couple of really, really special, great people, Dan O'Brien and Amy Wortman. And I had left Pepsi and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but we were beverage experts and I was a huge cider fan. And I was actually what I call a cider stalker. So I was going to all of the New York Cider Association events and I was going to, you know, the American Cider Association events, and I really loved cider. But I was like, I wasn't sure, you know, whether I should get into it or not. And so my partner, Dan, and I, our kids were playing soccer one day. And when Dan and I used to work at PepsiCo together, we were in the R&D side of the street. So we made the soda. And I said to him, you know, do you want to make cider? Because he had left years earlier to go and make wine. He had gone to Napa and he had gone, actually even went as far as New Zealand to learn, you know, the winemaking craft. And I was like, you know what, I think I want to make cider. I really love cider. And he was like, okay. So then, you know, it took a couple of years. So we took a lot of classes. We went and took classes up in Cornell. We took classes down at Penn State. And Dan and my husband, Gary, actually even traveled over to the UK to learn from Peter Mitchell, who's like this renowned cider maker. And so then we said, okay, we're going to do this. We found some great growers in the Hudson Valley. So they're all privately owned small farms that are up in, you know, North Hudson Valley and Columbia County. And we said, okay, so we found our source. We did a lot of stalking. We knew what we liked, what we didn't like. And then we tried our hand at it. And don't get me wrong, we had some starts and stops. But we finally got it into a bottle last year. And so we made our 750s, and we made a dry, a semi-dry, and a Clara's Reserve, which we're going to try today. And then we also made it in 12 packs. And that was, you know, I call it the last sunny day on the Titanic because, you know, then COVID all broke loose. So we're just new. We're just, you know, really getting out there. And I also want to bring Amy into it because, you know, Dan and I are scientists and we needed somebody to help us, you know, pull the brand together, pull the brand essence together. And I love old things and making them new again. And I have a building that is this antique landmark building in Purdy's, New York, which is this tiny little hamlet in North Salem, which is in northern Westchester. And it's got a great story behind it. It was for over 100 years, it was in the same family, and it's McKeel's Marketplace, and it was handed down from generation to generation through the daughters. And it became very, very logical that we would call our cider Merchant's Daughter to honor those family and honor those hardworking women, because even though the dad's name or the husband's name was always on the sign, it was really the backbone of that industry and that business were the women. So, you know, our essence with Merchant's Daughter is that we want to, you know, honor the past and bring something new to the future. And how perfect was it to marry those two things up?
That's
So
fantastic.
together, we're making cider.
I love it. And it's a great story. And Janine Marie agrees as well. Show you her comment there coming in from Facebook. That is awesome. Thanks, Janine, for that. So love that story. And I love what you were talking about. You know, what I thought when I was thinking about this opportunity, I thought, you know, because you're new and developing this really awesome sort of space in the cider world with your Merchant's Daughter brand, I thought it'd be cool to pair you with Donna and do this drawing because it's something just new and different and sort of innovative and kind of clever. And so Donna, tell us a little bit about you and sort of your background and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So I'm Donna Mikkelsen. I'm an ambidextrous artist, which means I do use both hands, often simultaneously and symmetrically. I've been doing this as a daily practice probably since about 2012. But I discovered this kind of spontaneous symmetry drawing when I was 19 years old. I started to explore this. It just seemed really cool and very intuitive for me because I love doing things with both hands at the same time. And it kind of has informed my work. I just wanted to really dedicate time to see where this could go. I'm also an educator, so one of the things that I've been working on the last few years is really developing lessons and residencies and programs that I could take into schools or camps or after school to expose kids to a different type of drawing that doesn't require you to be any kind of artist, but actually using drawing as a mindfulness tool, as a way to inspire creativity, sometimes get unstuck. So I really use it as like my own therapy tool. And I do use it for design also. I've done a few logos and paintings. I love doing big scale murals. And I love color. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. So this is exciting to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And if you're in the, certainly the Beacon area, there's plenty of opportunity to see Donna's work around town. There's some really awesome places where she's done some big murals, which I love. So Christine, why don't we get started and do some tasting and then we'll jump into doing a drawing along with it.
Okay, great. So what we're going to do is we're going to taste our three products. So we have a dry, we have a semi-dry, and we have a Clara's Reserve, who Clara was actually named for one of the daughters. So the first one is our dry. And so if folks have it, great. We're just going to give it a little bit of a pour. And this product is actually, like I said, we use local Columbia County growers, and it uses predominantly Northern Spice. So we're a modern New York state cider, and it uses predominantly, I would say heirloom culinary apples. So Northern Spy, Wine Sap, Ida Red, Jonna Gold, which is this really great lush apple, Liberty, and some Arkansas Black, which kind of gives it complexity and give it a nice smell. And it's you can smell the apple blossoms almost. It also has a little honeydew, maybe a little light melon to it. Give it a nice little sip. It's clean, it's bright, it's crisp, and we like to say it's unapologetically tart. So it's bone dry, and that Northern Spy has that really nice brightness to it. It's a really nice tart apple, and I think that's a really nice example of what I would say a clean New York, typically New York modern cider would be like. We often like to say, for a lot of folks that haven't had an opportunity to try cider, so you can correlate on a build on a known, that's very Prosecco-esque. All of our ciders have 7% alcohol, and so it goes really, really great. That acidity cuts through, and it really pairs well with like fatty foods, like a brie cheese. We just had our wood fire food event with Chef Dan Sabia, where he made the center pork, a pork chop on the open flame, and it was phenomenal. Yeah. And this is the one that we paired with that, so it went really well with that.
Excellent. Nice. All right. So Donna, do you want to take us with this amazing flavor and aroma and taste on our minds. You want to take us into our first drawing?
Sure, yeah. So what everyone will need is a piece of paper. And we're going to start with one marker, but you will need two. And if you have some tape, just tape down. I'm using a board, but if you have paper, just tape it down because we're drawing with both hands. We don't want paper to slide, so that's the reason for the tape. So if you guys get yourself set up, I wanted to just start talking about this method that came about. Actually, it was a friend of mine that gave me this name, Spontaneous Symmetry, Michael Feigenbaum. He's hearing this. And it really was great because it is what, exploring what spontaneity is. It's really important, especially right now, because the world is changing so fast. And it's really important that all of us become more responsive to these fast changes and are able to kind of process and handle all that. So it's kind of nice to explore this. And the way we're going to do it today is to take your marker and put it in your less dominant hand. So from your left hand, if you're lefty, put it in your right hand. It's really important to process and handle all that. So it's kind of, well, I think I'm getting feedback.
There we go. I think we're good, Donna.
You good? Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to put our marker in our less dominant hand, and I call this advanced doodling. And doodling is the original spontaneous drawing. It's you kind of sitting there and you're bored and you let it go. You're not really thinking about what you're doing. So we're going to do a doodle. And what I want you to do in this drawing, obviously you're going to not be drawing like this. I'm just doing this so I can show you. I want you to really focus your eyes on the point of contact. So you're using your non-dominant hand. It's going to be a little weird and a little wonky, and that's okay. So you're just going to really focus on that point. Really follow it with your eyes. Try not to plan where this drawing is going to go. Just kind of have fun going around the space. If you find it's a little shaky, that's okay. Kind of lean into that uncomfortable feeling of doing something maybe you've never done before. Mostly we don't switch hands when we draw or write, so something new. And then when you feel like you're done, or I always like to finish where I start. You're going to go back to the beginning. So it's a quick little drawing, but we're really focused on that point of contact, that moment of spontaneity in the drawing. So I'll give you guys a minute to do that. And I'm going to do another one. And if there are any questions,
This is really cool, Donna.
I did it.
Did you do it? Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Can you see mine? I didn't. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
It was weird. It was weird doing it with your non-dominant hand. It was, but it gets you thinking differently, right?
It does, and I feel like right now it's so important to be open to new thoughts, encompassing new realities. Our culture and our society is changing in really wonderful ways, and I think it's good to exercise that.
Yeah, it is good to exercise it.
Yes. So now let's do it ambidextrous. So now you're going to switch hands and put the marker in your dominant hand. So you're still using one hand. And I just want you to really bring your awareness again to that point of contact. But this time, now you're going to be drawing in relation to what's already there. And I want you to be observant about the difference between how it felt using your non-dominant hand and your dominant hand. So you might find that you can go at greater speed. You can do more detail. You can get a little bit more fancy. And there's a wonderful freedom in that because you've had practice with this hand. And just have a little fun playing around inside the shapes, making new ones. And what's nice is with your dominant hand, you really can get into some cool details. And honestly, I can do this for hours, and I do. So now we have our first ambidextrous drawing.
I love it. That is really awesome. Yeah, this is.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's great.
It's so cool.
So what I like about it is you really can start to play with those two hemispheres of the brain. You're kind of being spontaneous, yet you're following, you know, the guidance of, you know, following speeds. And anyway, we'll get into it more in the next drawing.
I thought it was interesting, you know, with my dominant hand, which is my right hand, it was more difficult to let go of the thinking of where I was going. Do you know what I mean? Like with the hand that I don't normally use, I really did have to kind of, it was easier to stay in touch with like where it was going and staying at the point where it was touching the paper. But with my right hand, I was sort of more direct. I was not as into it. I was directing it more, you know? I wasn't able to let go of that.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I think you can be a little more intuitive with the less dominant hand because you aren't you don't have that brain, you know, those connections aren't that strong. And I do a lot when I'm feeling really stuck. I'm like, oh, let me try this hand, you know, to break out of that, you know, kind of stuck pattern.
Yeah.
Helps. Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Excellent. So Christine, should we do the next tasting?
We're going to do the next one. So now we're going to go to the semi-dry. Okay. And so our semi-dry uses similar apples. So again, it's going to use Northern Spy. It's going to use some wine sap. It's going to use Ida Red. And again, that Johnny Gold apple. A little Liberty, actually. And again, the Arkansas Black. And but this time, it's not going to be totally bone dry. It's going to have a little less than 2% residual sugar. It's got a little less than 2% sugar in it. And so this time, what happens is that it's going to become more apple forward, because what sugar does is it helps to potentiate those flavors forward, but it's also going to smooth that tartness in the back. So it's going to have just a little bit of a more smooth finish.
Mm.
And I smell, not only do I smell, you really get other fruits. So if you really think about it, think like cantaloupe, if you smell, or maybe a little peach in the aroma. And then it goes down nice and smooth and clean, but it still pulls through dry. And this one, I think you can, you know, this is very drinkable all day long on its own. You know, I have it with, I like to put fresh berries in it. That's this is, you know, my drink of choice. And it just makes good for a good sipping cider on a hot summer day, right?
Summer day.
It's perfect. You know, I just got struck with like, it'd be really delicious with a really good hearty summer salad, like a lot of like greens and vegetables and maybe, you know, some sort of fruit with a little feta cheese or something.
Perfect.
So good.
I'm coming over, Scott.
Let's do it. It's perfect. Awesome.
So, and I love how we're pairing, you know, this is the first time, obviously, that, you know, we're pairing cider and doing an art event, but it's so creative. It's so innovative, and to kind of just take those thoughts and be able to put them down on paper and think about, you know, the different elements where it's dry and it's sweet and it's lush, and just like let your mind go. I can't wait till we get into the ambidextrous piece of it simultaneously.
Yes.
Excellent. So Donna, should we go into another drawing?
Let's do it. That's great. So before we start, one of the things I really like to do, and I think it's such an important part, is where we focus our eyes. Well, and also what our bodies are doing. So I'm a mover, and I love incorporating movement into my drawing. So the first thing before we start with our symmetrical drawing, let's get our bodies symmetrical. So if you're sitting down in a chair, just plant your 2 feet on the ground so they're flat. Really try to sit on your sits bones, spine tall. Just kind of take a moment and just feel grounded. So that's the first thing. Then we're going to talk about where we put our eyes, because we're drawing with 2 hands at the same time. So we have 2 points going in different directions simultaneously, symmetrically. What do you do with your eyes, right? So when we were doing one-handed, our eyes converged, and there we were focusing on that point, that spontaneity point. And now what we're going to do is engage our peripheral vision so that we can actually see both points simultaneously, because it's actually impossible to do with your eyes converging. So I like to do a little exercise. It's really, really simple. I always find it really like relaxing and soothing. It's don't worry, it's not that silly, but it's kind of a weird exercise. You're going to hold your palms in front and kind of open your hands in front of you, and you're going to stare in between your hands, like do like a really long view straight out in front of you, and you're going to open your hands out to the side as wide as you can, and you should be seeing them in your peripheral vision, and go as far as you can until they disappear, and then see when they come back, and really kind of feel that sensation of seeing both things without really focusing on it. It's happening in a different kind of awareness in your periphery, which is really lovely feeling. As you're there, just like relax your tummy and relax your jaw and take a breath. It can be very, very calming to just become aware of that space. So once we've done that, we can now translate that into our drawing. So are we good to go? Everybody's
Yes.
good? Okay.
Yeah,
So
let's
now,
go. Awesome.
this is when you definitely want your paper taped down, because usually we're not even aware. We usually hold the paper with one hand. So now we don't have that. I speak from experience. You don't want to slip it and slide it. Let's all take a sip of this beautiful, it is just lovely and smooth. It's gorgeous. Thank you. Let's see. So so symmetry is, it's very balancing. There's so many, our bodies are very symmetrical. When you see things in nature that are symmetrical, there's something just very soothing about it. So we're combining spontaneity and symmetry. So I guess let's just go for it. So I think what I'll do is I'll demonstrate, and then you guys, this is a little weird, but here we go. I think what I'd like you to do is start, I call this the heart of the paper. So start in the center of the paper and just really, let's see. I think I want to do this in concert with breathing, because I feel like right now we all need to take nice deep breaths. So we're going to start at the heart, and using your breath as kind of a rhythm, we're going to breathe in and out, and in and out, and go in and out as far as as often as you want, 1 or 2 times. Try to end up back in the center. Just kind of let it flow, kind of like your blood flowing through your heart. Just in and out. Let your breath be your rhythm. Let's do that again. A little awkward drawing this way. Yes. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Show and tell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to
Christine,
do
you're
two too. Well, I had to do two too. because at first I was overthinking it. I think a little bit too much. So yeah, so I did this one.
Nice.
And then I did another one, which I think was a little better.
Nice. And I have this, I just did the one.
Oh, yours is good, Scott.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, you know what I found really interesting is that I was inhaling, my strokes were much broader and more comfortable. And then as I was exhaling, they got way more sort of, wavy and dynamic, and which is, I'm sure there's a lot you could dissect around that.
Well, let's
I thought it was like therapy a little bit. It's really,
it is, right? It is.
Yes, it's really relaxing.
Absolutely.
And you can, I mean, that's the thing, you can combine it with so many things. Like, one of the things I like about the symmetry drawing is it really satisfies those two hemispheres of the brain, because your left brain, which is more prone to rules and things being in order, you have the rule of, we're keeping symmetry. We have to focus on being, symmetrical. And then you can kind of adding the other rule of like, okay, I'm doing symmetry and breathing. So the left brain's real satisfied. And the spontaneity is where that right brain goes, whoa, like look at like a Rorschach, those ink blot drawings, when you just kind of open it, you go, ooh, how exciting. It's like that as you're doing it. So the next drawing will focus more on capturing that moment, like being in that moment.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We'll do another one.
This is a fun comment from Switchiana. It looks like I'm better at the sipping than the drawing. That's okay. That's okay. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
And so, Christine, tell me about, when we think about spontaneity, do you find spontaneity in the work that you do with crafting a really delicious cider? How does that play into what you do?
I can't take credit for the cider making. I have to honestly tell you, it is my partner, Dan O'Brien, who is amazing in what he does as a cider maker. So what I can say is that I'm also like Svetlana, I'm better at the sipping than I am at the making. But I think what Dan did when we first started out, I will tell you, because we were really we're technical, we're R&D people. We were research and development. I even planted a research little mini orchard on my property, so that we could look at all these different types of cider apples, because we weren't familiar with them, because they're really difficult to get. So we bought all these single varieties. I'm going to tell you, it was probably close to 15 different single varieties, and we did all single fermentations, because we had no idea what the apple was going to be like after it was fermented. So we did a lot of, like I would say, like trials with various different yeast, various different types of apples, and just to see what we liked. And that's why I tell you that we were cider stalkers, because we really were. We tasted everybody's cider, and we went around and we learned and we talked to all of these amazing experts that you've had on all week on Hudson Valley Cider Week. Like you had the masters on the other night, and we became friends with them, and we talked to them, and we tried to absorb and learn as much as we could. And then we said, okay, what do we like? And I would say that Dan really represents our brand in his craft and his art on how he makes cider, which is, again, it's clean, it's crisp, it's not funky. So because he's a winemaker, and funky means bad things sometimes in the wine world, right? It does. Yeah. So ours is different. It's a little sophisticated. It might be a little sophisticated, but it's still really approachable and very drinkable. Very, very drinkable.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Should we move on to Clara's Reserve?
You want to go on to Clara's? Yeah. Okay.
That's next, right?
Yeah, Clara's is next.
Yeah.
So Clara is actually named for one of the daughters, and that's for real. So in our McKeel's marketplace, we have all these great old pictures that we got from the North Salem Historical Society, also of the building, because the building was The building was built in 1850s, and it was actually down by where the train station is, and it was actually moved up the hill when they built the reservoir system. So, and they stayed open the whole entire time when they were moving it up the hill. So it's got all this great history, and the town has a tremendous amount of information about it. And one of the daughters was actually named Clara. So this is in honor of Clara. So this is called Clara's Reserve. And like I said at the beginning, we had some starts and stops. So this was actually from our 2017 harvest. And I'm going to grab a clean glass here. This was actually from our 2017 harvest. And it's going to be different. It actually uses different apples. It uses what is my favorite apple, I think, to make cider is the Crimson Crisp. So it utilizes mostly a Crimson Crisp. It also has a little Honey Crisp in it, a little Liberty. So it's going to be, maybe it has more, more sugars in it. And it also uses an apple that I had never heard of. It's called an opalescent. And what happened with this cider is that we aged it for a year before we had failure to get it into a bottle. So it was also aged for a year. So what you're going to see is that it has more mature flavors. It's going to be, I'm going to swirl it a little bit here. I over poured, so I got to do it on the. It's going to be more rounded. It's going to be the most appley that we have.
Yeah, I taste the Honey Crisp.
Yeah. If you think about it too, there's maybe some ginger notes in there, maybe some almond character, and then it's going to finish in a creamy sweet style. We think that this one's more like a Riesling. So if you were again going to equate it back to a wine, this has a more of a Riesling type of style, but it's very, when I say it's our sweetest, it's still not very sweet at all, but it has a nice, just has a nice full-bodied apple, kind of different quality to it. Again, these more stately type of apple flavors that come across. I will tell you, it's a big fan favorite. So we call it our reserve because, again, it was aged for a year and it was from a 2017 harvest. And so our dilemma is how can we recreate this with, future harvests? Because it definitely is one of the favorite products that we have.
Yeah, as I'm getting more and more immersed in the craft beverage world, I find my favorite beverages, and then suddenly they just go away because they're small craft, right? So it's like I have to hoard the ones I really love.
Yeah. So I love this one though. It's nice. So this one is more of a dessert kind of cider,
Yeah.
Yeah. But all very good for sipping and for symmetry. And like I said, we're new, so we're trying to get out there. And I go to the farmers market every Friday. But what's amazing is when you taste them, guaranteed, people are like, "Wow, this is really good." So we're hoping that we're so happy for phase 3 and getting out there and being able to sell and get our ciders out there.
And Christine, tell everybody which farmers markets you're at.
So we go to the one up on Todd Hill, which is on the Taconic. It's a Taste of New York. So you can find me if you're driving by on the Taconic, just pull on in and come and say hi, and you can have our ciders there. And we're the Pleasantville market is a big one, and also Mesquite is a big one, and we're trying to get into those. But with the COVID, they've had to kind of pace out taking on new clients or new booths. So hopefully as things open up, we'll be able to get there as well. And you can always find us. I have to put a shout out for the Chico's and Sons Markets, who is huge. They were one of the first people to take us. So with Suburban Wines and Liquors, you can All Season Liquors, the Taste of New York's, Boutique in Fishkill, which everybody loves. So we're trying to get out there.
Awesome. And just so everybody knows, we're also going to have the listing of where you can buy Merchant's Daughter in the description of this video. So if you ever want to reference back, you can check that out. we have a really awesome comment from Ashley saying, Clara's Reserve is my favorite. Drinking it is improving my drawing skills. Thanks, Ashley. That's awesome. And with that in mind, why don't we go back to drawing? So Donna, do you want to take us on our next adventure here?
Let's just take one more sip because this is so delicious.
It's good, right?
What I really I love that it has kind of a wine-ish feel to it, because wine doesn't always agree with me. So having like this option like this, it's so delicious. I don't think I'll buy any other cider.
Oh, Donna. I know, and I'm not even paying Donna.
I know.
When something's good, it's good, you know? It is what it is.
It's really good. So I'm so excited to be doing this because it's just, yeah, it's wonderful. Okay, so last drawing, I think we're just going to play again with that right brain, left brain, and really focusing on that moment of spontaneity that's happening with our peripheral vision. So what I want you to do is you're going to take both markers, and I guess I'll demonstrate first, and then you draw. What we're going to do is we're going to set up some rules for ourselves. So we're going to keep our drawing symmetrical, and what we're going to be aware of is we're not going to cross any lines. So we're going to go from the top of the page down to the bottom, and if you're feeling adventurous, back up without any lines crossing. And what I mean by that is this is lines crossing, right? So we're not doing that. We're gonna have our awareness, that's gonna be part of our awareness. So we're symmetrical, we're not crossing the lines, and our focus is gonna be in that middle space. So we're really looking at the white space, or the negative space that's happening as the drawing emerges. So I'm just trying to balance it here. Let's see if we can make this work. All right, here we go. So you're going from the top, and we're just go slow and really, really try to engage your peripheral vision and look at that middle space. Kind of like how we did that exercise, and just have some fun going up and down your page. See how much how much space you can cover without crossing the lines, and come back up to the top and see what you come up with. Let's see if I lost this. There we go. Okay. So give that a whirl, and I'm going to try another one. How's everybody doing?
Doing well.
Scott, are you going to show off again?
I mean, I'll show you, but I don't think I'm showing off.
No, that's pretty good. It's like a butterfly.
Well, and you know, it's weird because you're at the top.
Mine
like
look
I
like
literally. Oh, I like that, Christine. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That looks great.
I wish we were zooming and we could see everybody. So that was good.
I know.
Yeah.
We'll have to get people, you know, you can always like post your photo and tag us at New York Cider and Cider.
Totally.
Cider Week HV, which would be really awesome. Yeah. But you could see it here. I was like really conscientious about not crossing, and then right as I was finishing, they touched. So I was like, oh no.
Oh no, you failed, Scott. How could you?
Exactly.
It's that we do that to ourselves. You know, we have that kind of language we learn from school. It has to be right or wrong or perfect.
Right.
I think a lot of my journey with my students or people that I'm instructing is to really let go of thinking it has to be anything, that it's okay to just do something and it's representing that moment, that process, and that in itself is enough. That's art. That's mark making. It's wonderful. So yeah,
and you know, Donna, one of the things that that always just really I think a big factor of your work that always intrigues me is the fact that you do, like you just did a minute ago, like you just wipe it away. It's almost like mandala type, you know, and you can see, I don't know if people realize, but that's her studio. And in the back, that's a whole chalkboard wall. So she tends to do like really wall sized pieces of art, and then she'll just like wipe them away. And they're these stunning, beautiful pieces, and they just sort of go away. And so talk a little bit about that, because that's something that I think I'd have a hard time doing.
Well, I call it ephemeral art, and it really was born out of necessity. I just, I had to downsize, and I had no studio. All I had was a wall in my hallway, and I was like, how am I going to continue this practice? Because it's a practice. You're training your muscles, you're training your eyes, you're training your brain. I was like, how am I going to do this every day? I don't have money for all this material. It's fast. What could I do? And I came up with, you know, let's just paint the wall with chalkboard, because then I could move, draw big. And then you know, it was sad that I couldn't keep it, so I would start to videotape and take pictures. But there's something very liberating, knowing that it is ephemeral, that it's not permanent, because it kind of takes away this pressure of it has to be something, or, oh my God, I just, you know, bought these expensive materials. And, you know, and I find when I'm out and about, I sometimes go into festivals or parks or natural spaces, and I bring these big chalkboards, and I get people outside drawing, and it's amazing because they know it's not going to last. So there's kind of this, you can really go for it. You kind of lose some of that inhibition, which is a wonderful process. So yeah, you know, some drawings I've kept up on my wall for a month just because I felt like they needed to stay with me. Because sometimes it's a spiritual like process. I sometimes connect to something either in myself or that I need in my life, and it appears, and then it's like, okay, time to move on. So
yeah. So Christine, I would ask you sort of a similar question in your space and sort of building this really beautiful brand and these delicious ciders. Like, you know, when do you think about letting something go or holding on to it or making sure it's perfect before you put it out in the world? Like, how does that work in your world?
Yeah. So it changes, right? So the harvest is going to change every single solitary time. So year over year, it's going to be different. And so we know that, you know, even though we're going to produce this dry cider every year those apples are going to be different because Mother Nature is going to be different. So you might have a flood, you know, a lot of rain like we're having today, or you could have a drought. And so the sugars are going to be different. So you always have to be able to be flexible and to be able to, you know, kind of create, but then again, be consistent in what you're trying to offer and have that goal in mind. And I think, you know, we love cider, you know, we love food, we love people, and we love bringing those communities together and having that conversation. And that's why I really love that we're doing this exercise together, because it's really bringing everybody together and having them like think differently. And I would say it's the same thing with cider. You know, you get these fantastic, amazing apples. They're going to be different year over year. And, you know, then we're going to be able to put that craft or that art. It really is an art. It's a science and an art, and it's an art, and it's married together. And then it comes out to be this delicious drink that brings communities and conversations together. And you know what? I love that.
Yeah. Agreed. Fully agreed. Yeah. And I mean, I think one of the things that when I was thinking about this, it really is, you know, both of these spaces are art and craft, right? And just creating, whether it's a delicious cider or a beautiful piece of artwork, you know, there's something to be said. There's a lot of similarity in that space around thinking and creating and developing, and mindfulness being so important. And just, to me, it's a great combination.
It is. And plus, it's really fun, right?
Yeah.
Artists and people that are in the alcohol business are fun people.
Frequently, the paths converge.
Right?
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely agreed.
And it's
Awesome.
something, you know, after you know, working in you know, after working in the corporate world, which was fun. Listen, don't get me wrong, soda is fun. I'm going to say cider is even more fun. So it's an amazing thing. And it's really one of the things that we always used to say is it's the people, the people, the people. So it's who you get to work with. It's who you get to be with. It's just having a good time doing it, especially as an encore career, right? Or doing something that you're passionate and that you love. And it's a wonderful place to be. And I think New York Cider is the place to be.
Yes.
And I am so happy. You know, I know we did our research and we were, you know, stalkers, but we're here. And you know what? It's the best place. I'm so excited for everything that Hudson Valley, New York State has to offer to this industry, which I personally believe should be what it once was previously and bigger. Yeah. It's so logical.
There's so much potential, right? Like so much opportunity, and yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. So when we think about potential and growth, so Donna, for you, before we come to the end, you know, what's next for you? What are you looking to do? You know, certainly navigating through the pandemic, like what's coming up for you?
Well, it's a few things. One, as an educator, being really passionate about education and that kind of necessary revolution that needs to happen in education. I'm really trying to pull on all my resources to support the changes, the structural changes that need to happen to really dismantle the white supremacy that exists in all of the structures in our government, in our society. I think it's an important thing to be putting my attention to and using my resources as much as I can towards that endeavor. As an artist, I mean, tomorrow I was supposed to start my 5-day retreat at Omega Institute, so that's happening. So I'm trying to look in for ways to bring that online, to bring that to people as a healing tool, as a way to find balance in a world that's kind of upside down right now. So as much as I can be of service as an artist, as an educator, just as a person, as a parent, I want to do that right now. That's my focus.
Fantastic. I think we're all very much in need of that. And I'll put all the links in the description of the video, but tell people where they can keep in touch with you. Like, I know you have a Facebook page, Instagram, things like that, and a website, right?
Thank you.
So yeah, I'll put your Facebook page and your Instagram and your website in our description so people can link up with you and follow your work, which clearly I'm a huge fan of, but it's special. You should keep an eye on it.
And this has been great, Scott. Thank you so much for the invitation, and it's so wonderful to get to know you, Christine. And I'm psyched because I have 3 bottles of this. This is going to be.
And so, Christine, I'm curious to know from you as well. Like, what's next for you? I know, you know, we've talked a lot about just, you know, getting the brand off the ground and really getting it moving. You know, like. But beyond sort of that, do you see anything in the near future beyond that, or is that your main focus?
Yeah, I think it's getting the brand up. We've arrived, right? So, and we were off the ground. Now we'd like to, you know, maybe just take a little bit of a flight, you know, and have get it out there, because I think we have something special to offer. I think we have a great story to tell. You know, I think it's, like I said, we just, we love cider, we love food, we love the Hudson Valley. We're so happy to be part of Hudson Valley Cider Week. Amazing group of people. We love the stores that are carrying us. And I think that, you know, what we offer, it will just bring, you know, the summer of cider, right? So it just brings joy and happiness. And I think we can use a lot of that right now.
I agree. I like that. I like the summer of cider idea. That sounds pretty phenomenal. We do all need that for sure. For sure. Well, this has been really, really special. Thank you both so much. This is just really, really awesome. Really joyful.
Thanks, Scott. We love you. We're so glad that you're here too.
It's absolutely my pleasure.
It's been crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, like I started on March 1st as the executive director of the New York Cider Association, and you know, like it's been amazing, and I've loved every single second. But who knew, you know, when March 1st came around, that the world would so dramatically change in so many ways. But I just continue to feel really, really excited and inspired. I think there's some really amazing opportunities, and all of these really intense challenges that we've all been facing just provide a great deal of opportunity for us to move into something new and different and more special than it even was going to be, you know, back on March 1st when everything was still fine. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, and so great things can come out of chaos and crises, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So cheers, you guys.
Oh, it's wonderful to support local businesses, and you know, keeping it in the community is just so important at this time. So I really appreciate this platform to share and support each other. It's so great.
Awesome.
So too.
Excellent.
All right,
thank you both.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Hudson Valley Cider Week.
Yes, check out ciderweekhv.com and look at the events tab. There's still more events to come. We have a lot of programming going on this weekend. We have a really amazing dinner date tonight with Chef Alex Raj, pairing her beautiful Spanish cooking with some Orchard Hill ciders, and there's a lot more. So check out the event page, and we'll see you at our next event, which is coming up shortly at 4 o'clock. It's a tasting with Little Apple Cidery. So we will see you then.
Brilliant.
All right, Donna, Christine.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Cheers.